So a smart organization is one that has intention behind it. It's not just one where there's an idea that seems great and we're going to work on that today and we're going to work on this tomorrow, and then something comes up and now we're going to switch directions. And that sounds a bit hyperbolic, but it really isn't in a lot of organizations. And companies can be very successful that way for a very long time. But at some point, without that foundation and without a clear direction and without knowing what your values are, right, and what's driving the organization, it will inevitably collapse in a lot of ways. And we've seen that with all sorts of unicorns. We've seen that with things like Uber. Uber's a great example of that, right? One of the first, I think maybe the first unicorn, but a horrible culture, right? And essentially tore the company down. They had to rebuild from the ground up because they had never had those true values in place. So I think that we need to be very intentional about the way we communicate, intentional about the tools we use, intentional about how we plan and how we operate, and again, basing that on why are we doing the things that we're doing and what is ultimately driving this. There's so many organizations that, again, have been very successful, made lots and lots of money, but it's based on people working themselves to the bone and essentially who can work hardest. Best example of that is financial services, things like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, all the investment banks, where you have people who just have to go through the gauntlet of working 19, 20 hours a day and sleeping under their desks because they're junior analysts, and that's what everybody did. And you either make it or you don't, and the organization continues to float on the backs of that work. That's not working smarter, that's working harder, right? So we want to just also be looking at how we can be most effective. And that's ultimately what I think it breaks down to, right? Being productive is producing more. Being efficient is producing more with less. But being effective, and in that way, I guess being smart, is doing the right things, producing and doing the right things. So if we're being smart, we are producing the right things with the right outcome for the right purpose.